Why shouldn't we boycott pouring Guinness into a cocktail glass?
What happened at the Guinness brewery that led to over 1,000 ambulances being called?
What is the Guinness World Record?
And how did Guinness get ex-British Prime Minister Gordon Brown unblind drunk?
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone!
Top of the lineup, please.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to everything you didn't need to know about. Today we're talking everything you didn't need to know about St. Patrick's Day. We're talking about Guinness. I was pretending to be drunk then. I don't drink.
Very convincing, Sam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I've already called an intervention.
As always, we'll be giving you our favourite facts that we found out about Guinness this week, and a winner will be crowned. And the winner will take away the only alcohol I could find in my house, this empty bottle of brandy that I think my wife has secretly been drinking in private.
God, she needs it.
That's the Christmas cake bottle. It gets brought out once a year to feed the Christmas cake, and then it goes back in the cupboard to gather dust.
It's very true. Okay, I hear Meg drinking in the toilet by herself and crying. Anyway, who will give us the best fact of the day? Will it be Nathan Kenny? Will it be Jewell? Will it be Thom Adams? Will it be me, Sam Smith? Because I love you guys. You guys are great. We need to hang out more.
I hate you guys so much.
Oh my gosh, Guinness. As a non-drinker, I feel very, I've never had it, but I know lots about it because my granddad, Guinness was his favorite drink. He used to drink it every single day, and he used to say it tasted like an entire meal, which is quite nice. And it had a little ping pong ball in the can, just for games of ping pong, I guess.
Science magic.
It is science
I love
magic.
Science magic.
Do you know what it's filled with? Nitrogen.
And that's what gives it the foaminess, right?
That was what gives
The
it
silky smooth foaminess.
because the original idea with Guinness was the double pour, and so what would happen is you wanted to get the creamy kind of this, but an early keg, like a fresh keg, was very fizzy, and so it would make lots of foam. So what they would do is they would pour that into the cup, half into the cup or into the glass, and then take a previously opened keg and top it up with that, so that you would get the lovely head, but without all the head. And so they, to kind of figure out how to make this creamy, delicious Guinness flavor, they used a combination of nitrogen and carbon dioxide. And because nitrogen is less soluble in water, it makes smaller bubbles. And so you end up with a smaller bubble mix, which is where the widget comes from. But there's been some really interesting alternatives to it, like they came out with a product called Guinness Nitro Surge, where
it sounds like an energy drink.
It does, but it had on the top, basically, as you opened it, it would do this ultrasonic frequencies, which would activate the nitrogen dissolved in the liquid. Seems really elaborate,
Yeah.
You would open it up and it would, because the whole point is to replicate the pour, which was done using nitrogen and carbon dioxide. But what's really interesting about that is the bubbles. And this is where my fact starts. And let's go science lesson with Thom. So we all know about the famous Guinness bubbles that go downwards. It's one of those like fun facts that you'll see on a TV in a fish and chip shop, that Guinness bubbles float downwards. But that is only half true. The Guinness bubbles that you can see float downwards. But in the middle, the Guinness bubbles are floating upwards. So what happens is, as the bubbles are going up, basically, as the bubbles are going up and kind of almost scraping along the glass, I guess, they're getting dragged back. But the bubbles in the middle, which have no glass to slow them down, move up at full speed. And so this creates this kind of drag effect where there's a pull. As the Guinness bubbles in the middle are going up much faster, they're pulling down the Guinness bubbles on the side, so they go downwards. And this only happens in a Guinness glass, because the Guinness glass is in a tulip shape. So if you wanted to get the perfect Guinness pour that would settle much faster, because that's the whole point, is that the way that the bubbles work, that it settles faster and you can drink it and it's delicious, smooth, creamy Guinness flavor. The best way to slow it down, to make that happen faster, would be to have a much higher, much more inclined glass, like a cocktail glass.
Yeah, or so drink it off a dinner plate.
Or a dinner plate, or a weird
straight out of the keg.
Yeah,
incredible.
The perfect Guinness pour would be in a cocktail glass. Of course, it'd be really funny to go to an Irish pub and a whole bunch of Irish, you got a soul of the earth guys go, yeah, I remember the war. I remember the war, sipping out of a cocktail glass.
I'd just like to apologise to all of our Irish listeners for the
Sorry,
intonation.
Let's be honest. There's going to be several dodgy accents in this one.
Yeah. If it was the other way around, though, if it was an opposite glass, then you would see the bubbles going up, and then the bubbles on the inside would go down.
So if you pour it into a Sambuca bottle,
Because we're
Bubbles would
classy.
still be going. The widget is vitally important because you can get a hold of both new and old Guinness kegs if you're in Dublin or in London and places like that. But when you're in Dunedin, where I live, there's a yearly cycle with Guinness. There's St. Patrick's Day, where you drink all of the Guinness that the pub bought for St. Patrick's Day last year and have been storing ever since. And you get through all of the old stock, and they just open the new ones when everyone's like, oh, St. Patrick's Day's over. Would anyone like a Guinness? No, we'll have something else. Thank you. So if you want the best Guinness you can get in New Zealand, which is probably not as good as the stuff you can get in Dublin, the best day to drink it is probably the 18th of March, not the 17th.
Yeah, great.
I should also say, because otherwise my fact makes a little bit less sense. That effect of the bubbles going down and being pulled up, it's called the boycott effect.
Oh,
is it named after the same guy?
But no, I don't think it was named after him. I think it's named after another guy called Boycott, actually.
Whoa.
I was looking into the widgets because obviously they're an environmental concern because they're made of plastic. And I found a group of, you'll be shocked to learn, Irish scientists who in 2011 found a green alternative where you coat the inside of the can with biodegradable natural cellulose. And basically what it would work out...
Jed, I love green alternative as well. This is like Irish Island Central.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to find out if you could get truly green Guinness, like if anyone's done like carbon neutral Guinness, but this is the closest I could find. But it ends up being just like an inch square piece of like cotton that you just stick in the inside of the can. And as the beer is tilted as you pour, I think the idea is that the surface of the like cotton basically just comes into contact with the beer and agitates it and adds the carbon dioxide that way.
Oh, very
That
interesting.
sounds like they're using the same principle as Mentos and Coke, because like the carbon, the cotton would just have like a whole bunch of surface area that the carbon dioxide and nitrogen would just go over and get bubbleized out, which is the scientific term.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bubbleized.
I know that people refer to it as the black stuff. That's the term for Guinness. But I also found out that it's not black. The people at Guinness refer to it as being
red.
ruby red.
Red, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or sometimes a dark ruby, which I'm like, it's very dark.
Yeah, like black.
Yeah.
So have you guys been to the Guinness brew house?
I have.
I have as well.
Did you go before or after Bumpus and Pa redid the tasting room experience?
I don't know. I went at about 10 o'clock on a Wednesday with 4 people who didn't drink Guinness. And so what they do at the end of the tour is they give you all a free Guinness. And if you go with 4 people who don't like Guinness at 10 in the morning, you end up drinking 5 pints of Guinness. And you think life is just great. And then you have a nap. And then you wake up at about 7 p.m. and you're like, what happened to my day? The brew house was lovely. It was wooden and very fancy. Is that what you were talking about, Jen? Or
there's this company called Bumpus and Pa who are based, I think, in London, and they just do these amazing experiential food, and they're genuinely really cool. They did an installation under one of the train stations called Edible Architecture. And the idea was you could go through these rooms and they piped in cocktails as mist and you would absorb through your skin a gin and tonic through the time. It's amazing. And they redid the Guinness tasting room. So instead of just like a big glass jar full of hops that you can kind of stick your face in and go, hops, they've got like these beautiful like scent wells which puff out mists of different flavors. And they talk about where all the ingredients come from and the kind of worldwide story. It sounded amazing and I'm really gushed I still haven't been.
Jen, you just said hops, which is the name of Hanson's beer that they make.
It's beer, yeah.
Yeah, that's not even a joke. They actually have a
which you
beer
can
called
only
hops.
buy by going to their concerts. I have tried to get it in New Zealand. It is not possible.
I met them.
That's it.
The guys from Hanson, they came to the project and I had a photo with them. They were very, very nice.
The guys, oh my God. My whole childhood.
Shocking news for Kenny.
Yeah. Oh, this changes things.
The history of Guinness is really fascinating, of course, because it's deeply seated in this quite a lot of different tensions, including, obviously Ireland and the UK, but also Catholics and Protestants. And there was a point where if a brewer wanted to marry a Catholic, they had to resign.
Yeah.
Until 1939, not even Catholic adjacent.
Yeah.
The quote is that Guinness has no qualms about selling drinks to Catholics, but it does everything it can to avoid employing them.
Yeah. Because they'll drink all the merchandise and spend the whole time banging each other. Did you know that the founder of Guinness, Arthur Guinness, had 20 children?
You cannot blame the Catholics then, Sam. Like, it is an equal opportunity thing.
When I think of Guinness, I always think of my mum, who's a midwife, telling me that she still basically prescribes it to her patients. So when someone's given birth and is especially starting to breastfeed, Guinness is actually really, really good for you because it's very high in iron and it's very kind of densely nutritious and it's really good for you. So Mum talks about how you used to be able to get Guinness on the NHS.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I don't know how true this is, but she's told me a story about Guinness being delivered by the milkman. So you'd have like a pot of full cream milk, a bottle of orange juice, and 2 pints of Guinness. It would just be like
freshly poured.
Yeah, and when you look into this, there are stories about kids being like at the age of 12 being prescribed Guinness for anemia.
If we wanted
Not
to find
anymore.
out whether it was an aphrodisiac, surely we could just ask Sam's granddad, right?
Well, there's a whole science thing around what your grandfather's conditions affects you. So if your grandfather went through a famine, you're more likely to be protected against heart disease. There's all these interesting kind of research around this.
Genetics. Yeah.
Kind of true,
Yeah.
because my granddad had MS and I have MS. So
Yeah. And
twinsies.
maybe your granddad, by drinking all that Guinness, supercharged your sperm. I'm just saying.
Probably
There is
did.
actually a link between Guinness and heart disease in that there is a school of thought that Guinness protects you from cardiovascular disease because it has similar antioxidant properties to fruit and vegetables. So it stops the
It gathers up all the
bad
free radicals.
cholesterol.
Yeah.
And it stops the cholesterol from getting into your arteries, basically. But I found this out because I was looking into, there used to be a slogan that was Guinness is good for you, which I kind of thought was just like a bit of a joke. It wasn't. It started because Guinness went into their pubs and were like, do you feel better after drinking a pint of Guinness? And everyone in the pub was like,
Fuck yeah.
And so they just started this campaign that was like, Guinness is good for you. And it started being prescribed, which leads into my fact, which is that Gordon Brown, when he was 16, was in a rugby accident. This is Gordon Brown, who was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
He's like me.
So when he was 16, was in a rugby accident and both his retinas detached, but they didn't realize that both of them had detached. So he went into hospital and they were like, oh, your guts, you've lost your sight in your left eye. And then he was playing tennis not long afterwards and felt something in his right eye and went to the hospital and they were like, oh yeah, no, your right eye is detached as well.
Ooh.
And so they took him into surgery because they were like, right, we can fix this. And he was only 16. And when he came to, he was put on a ward, and every evening at 6 p.m. a nurse would come around with a little trolley with Guinness, and he could just get a Guinness, just sitting in the ward, 16 years old. Would you like a Guinness? Oh, yeah, go on. He was like, that's when you know you've got a really good free NHS, is when you're getting Guinness brought to you every evening.
I'd just like to say that Guinness and rugby team accidents are associated, but normally it's the other way around.
Normally the other way around.
I feel like a lot more 16-year-olds who are starting to imbibe are going to be furiously playing tennis now to try and detach their retinas to get free Guinness on the taxpayer.
You can also do it in a slightly more dramatic fashion, because in 2017 there was an Irish guy on the Gold Coast in Australia who fell off. I think he was a builder, but he fell off the 7th floor of a building, had to have both his legs amputated. And then I read an interview with him and he was like, yeah, the doctors basically recommended I drink a pint of Guinness every day. It was great. I was like,
and they grew back.
Didn't he then become a sprinter and then shot his girlfriend in a bathroom? Same guy?
no, that was the South African, not the Irishman. The Irish guys are fine.
They
They're
were
too
like
slow
green,
from
I
all
get
the Guinness.
Yeah.
Maybe if Pistorius had had a Guinness or two, he would have just chilled out a little. He
Yep.
certainly wouldn't have been a great athlete if he'd drank a lot of Guinness. so maybe, yet again, alcohol could have solved so many problems.
Alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life problems.
Technically, alcohol is a solution. So
Yeah.
So true.
I found out a bit more about the history of Guinness. I didn't realize, firstly, that it was so old, but it was such a massive company. It was one of the top 10 companies in the world profit-wise. Guinness just absolutely exploded when it came out. Guinness in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they had a medical officer who was a very impressive man called John Lumsden. And he was their chief medical person. He was famously like a humanitarian. He really cared about all the workers. And at the time, Ireland had like the highest death rate out of all of Europe. There was still a bunch of tuberculosis around. Everyone was dying left, right, and center. He got all his workers together. He went to their houses and made sure they were living in appropriate conditions and weren't cramped. He taught all their families how to cook better and look after themselves. He started a football team called St. James Gate FC so that everyone got exercise. He also taught them all first aid, and so that they could all look after themselves better. So as long as they were Catholic. Catholics can die in the street. Well, no, he then, because this first aid system that he set up got so popular, it became the St. John's Ambulance of Ireland. It was him, this guy, John Lumsden, who set it up, which then, of course, throughout time, now in New Zealand, has led to us having over 1,000 ambulances. It was originally in England from a couple of years before that, but then, he set up in Ireland as well. And then, because this was then set up in Ireland, during the Easter Rising in 1916, he famously would go out and look after injured people on both sides. It didn't matter who you fought for, he would look after both of you. He'd run out in the street with his white flag on and his doctory hat, and would go and make sure everyone was nice and healthy. And his job was just the guy at Guinness who looked after everyone. I thought he was a very incredible person. He was Dr. John Lumsden at the time, and he got later knighted. He became Sir John Lumsden, which I think is funny because he's Sir John. He's like a surgeon, Sir John.
Two things come to mind out of that. First, every time you say humanitarian, I'm a vegetarian and I don't think of saving people first. Secondly, did he prescribe Guinness? Because again, people getting shot, like just drinking and just squirting.
We need to address your basic understanding of biology.
That's true. You get shot in the. There was a guy who got a stomach injury once, and they could see inside his stomach, and then they used that to see when you eat something. This amount of time later, we can see it appear in your stomach. They tested all the acids. And
Make him eat a frog. Make him eat a frog.
There's a story from.
Make him eat a kitten.
I think it's from the French court about a man who had, for some reason, basically like a hole in his chest, and you could basically had like a little door, and you could open it up and see his heart pumping.
Amazing.
I don't know how true it is.
My
question is the Dr. John, did he call the St. John's ambulance St. John after himself?
You would think so. And I spent quite a while trying to find this out, but no, St. John's ambulance was already set up before that.
Damn.
Then he took over. I know. I was.
But it was also, he called the football team St. John's Gate.
It was St. James's Gate.
Oh, St. James's Gate.
But that's named after where Guinness is brewed. It's St. James's Gate brew.
Yeah.
And it's also brewed in Nigeria.
They were
It's
like
a non-alcoholic Guinness brewed in Nigeria.
Really? Why?
Yeah, a sweet non-alcoholic drink. I don't know. It's exported to the UK, so I love the idea that you could walk into the wrong pub and order a Guinness and get what seems to be like a sweet cordial.
I heard that one is the most commonly drunk one in the world. That one, not the famous dark one. Well,
I guess if you can market it to everyone, people who don't drink because of religious affiliations or because they're seven.
Yeah.
Do we all know the top consumers of Guinness in the world? Can we guess which number one is?
So number one is Sam's granddad. Number two is probably my granddad.
Yeah.
I presume it's
and Sam's spin.
I'm going to say it's the USA first.
It is the UK.
And then Ireland.
Then Nigeria.
Oh. And then Ireland?
Makes sense.
Then Ireland.
Right.
Then the USA. Then Cameroon.
Oh, amazing.
Presumably because of the Nigeria connection rather than...
No, it's because of the US connection. Yeah.
Cameroon.
When we were talking, when I was looking up Guinness, I kept up accidentally typing in Guineas. So I found out a lot about Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau and Guinea. And there's so many countries called Guinea. I found out that's because those were the places where people used to go to find gold. And Guinea became the money. So they're all places where gold could be found.
So the Guinness World Records are from Guinness that we know and are talking about, right?
Yeah.
So
Settle pub feuds.
Because I wanted to tell you who drank the most Guinnesses in a day. That's what I wanted to be my fact.
But it seems granted.
We already talked about
it. But the Guinness World Record book refuses to keep those kinds of records because, bizarrely, this Guinness doesn't want to promote drinking.
They don't want to promote excessive drinking.
I did find out that the person who can drink a Guinness the fastest can down a pint of Guinness in 0.45 of a second, which is like...
I've seen this video. It's Bob Hawke.
So he owned the record for... So that's lager, but a yardie and a pint glass. But he, but Guinness is thicker and takes longer. And it's a guy called Pete from the UK, and he can drink...
He's like Madonna. He doesn't need a surname. It's just Pete. Oh, hey, yeah.
It's slightly faster than if you just poured it out. So he's actively sucking in the Guinness.
Is he a vacuum cleaner?
Yeah.
Was his name Henry?
The guy who drank the most beer in a day was Andre the Giant. So he drank 129 beers in a day, which is like one beer every 4 minutes for the whole day.
Was that him trying to do that, or was that just a casual Tuesday?
That can't be right.
Kenny, I feel like he's your spirit animal.
He's an example to us all.
Did you guys know that the Guinness Book of Records has the world record for being the most commonly stolen book from libraries? Which I think is pretty great. And the other great one I found out was that the world's most litigious man, the person who sues people the most, his name's Jonathan Lee Ritchies.
Where in America is he from?
Yeah, I don't know, but he sued the Guinness Book of Records for putting his name in the book.
Be great to do a Guinness record of just put it out there. We're looking for the record of who has stolen the most Guinness Books of Record, and then just catch the guy. You got him. Nailed it, boys.
So as part of their Guinness is Good For You campaign in the 30s, they used to send out booklets to doctors around Christmas time to be like, hey, you know what's great? Guinness. And try and get them to prescribe to people. And they did a collaboration. It says collaboration. I don't know if Carol's estate was involved, but they did an Alice in Wonderland Guinness crossover.
Oh.
And they had these little like booklets that were like just basically cute little stories. They didn't really say much about like the properties of Guinness. It was more just like, Guinness is great, eh? Yeah, let's do a story. It was really weird. But so one of them is, why is a gator like a bottle of Guinness? The Mad Hatter asked suddenly. You ought to know there is nothing like a Guinness, Alice said severely. You shouldn't ask riddles that have no possible answer. Which is very cute. And they did a whole Guinness-themed Jabberwocky one, which ended, and hast thou slain the Potter Hunt? What is the secret, man inspired? Guinness a day, I always say. Have a Guinness when you're tired. There's just reams of these. Someone was paid to just come up with what if Alice in Wonderland but Guinness.
Do you guys know what Sir Alec Guinness's middle name is?
Alec Wanna Guinness?
It's Guinness. Guinness is his middle name. He is. Okay. I was trying to find out if he was related to the Guinness family, and I don't think he is, because he on Wikipedia, he doesn't know who his father is. He has an uncle who he suspects is his father. But then a crazy thing happened. I was looking at Sir Alex Guinness, and it turns out he died on my birthday. Whoa. And then I thought, who else died on my birthday? I know one already, Marilyn Monroe. And I thought, who else died on my birthday? Crazy things are about to happen, everyone. First of all, Sydney Holland, former New Zealand Prime Minister. I'm from New Zealand. He died on my birthday. But then, this is where it gets crazy. Rob Muldoon also died on my birthday. Famous drunk. What are we talking about? Guinness. It's alcohol. It all adds up.
So what we're saying is that every birthday that Sam has, someone famous died.
Another New Zealand Prime Minister is going to die. Good luck, That's Cindy. Rough. Hope you're okay.
I believe in prime ministers. I believe in prime ministers. I believe in prime ministers.
Oh no, we've just figured out what Sam wishes for every birthday cake. Oh no.
It was real mean of you to kill Marilyn Monroe before you were even born. That was real
62.
Harsh. Speaking of famous women, which is obviously Guinness gets its distinctive taste from the water of the River Liffey.
Oh.
Well, yeah, and from the water of the River Liffey, which is why that part of Ireland is famous for stouts, because that's what the water is good for. It's either hard or soft water, I can't remember which, is good for stouts.
Probably
And
soft.
that's what they have. The Spirit of the Liffey was a statue created in the 80s based on a work by famous Dublin resident James Joyce in Finnegan's Wake. And he called her Anna Livia Plurabella. And she was installed in the Liffey, and Dubliners took a bit of a shine to her, but also gave her lots of rude nicknames. But she's been relocated and she's just opposite the River Liffey from the Guinness factory.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, but she's this beautiful woman like rising out of the water. So she's supposed to be Anna Livia, but she's also known as the Biddy in the bidet, the Floozy in the jacuzzi, or the Hooer in the sewer.
Amazing.
Which I just,
Hooer.
this beautiful piece of public art commemorating the spirit of a river, and they're like, Biddy in a bidet. I like that.
Speaking of whores, we better finish off the episode. Don't know how that made sense. So let's we'll quickly go around and remind everyone our facts. My fact was that St. John's Ambulance in Ireland anyway got its start at the Guinness factory.
My fact is that because of the boycott effect, the bubbles in Guinness goes down, and the best way to have the best settling Guinness would be to drink it out of a cocktail glass.
My fact is that doctors disagree on the actual efficacy of Guinness, but Gordon Brown at least enjoyed a Guinness after his eye surgery operation thanks to the NHS.
And my fact is, if you dream big and work really, really hard, maybe one day you too could drink a pint of Guinness in 0.45 seconds.
All right. Well, on the count of three, we're going to point to the person we think had our favourite fact of the day. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. That is 2 votes for Nathan Kenny. Top of the morning to you, Kenny.
Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, share us with your friends and family. If you have any favourite facts about Guinness or any other alcoholic beverage, or anything else at all really, please comment underneath this video and join us next week. Bye everybody.